The scriptures read meaningless to those unversed in parabolic citation, blinding most to Bible secrets presented as puzzle for all to see. The profundity of gospel message, like Morse code, seems gibberish to one unskilled in translation and unscrupled in encryption. Few there are for guidance, able to direct those ready to the miracle of saving grace and the reward of salvation through Yeshua Christ. Such unfathomed attainment eludes those engrossed by materialism and the mass market appeal of matrix-contrived goal and dream, designated to entertain those callous to spiritual pursuit and regard for the kingdom. Welcome, friends. I'm your host, Zen Garcia, and this is FallenAngels.tv. And it's a Saturday broadcast, and I thank those of you that have taken the time to join me and those that will later hear archive. I decided to switch up topic, even though I'm still doing research as far as what has been lately my preoccupation with the geocentric or flat earth and the various questions as well as answers that are corresponding to both. And there's just a lot to say about it, but I'm not going to cover any of that in this particular show. I do have more to say, but I decided to write a small book about one facet, which I'm not going to talk about here because this is a huge secret, and I just want to be able to put it in print and get it out before anybody else has chance to do so. And so I'm working diligently on that particular task. I have, for the time being, decided to spend my focus there rather than in completing that book on the war in heaven, which I will get to, and this other poetry book on my observations of the world and New World Order and all those things. But I had to divert, at least temporarily, my focus and preoccupation with those tasks, because this as topic, this mother of all conspiracies, has affected so much of what I was working on there that I have to come to some kind of understanding which would make me decide which direction to go. But it is huge, and I will release it soon. I've been working 24/7 on it, and so I've got already 50 pages done. But anyways, today I decided to cover a portion of what is called the Apocalypse of Abraham, which is a text that not a lot of people have heard about. And link, when people read what I'm working on now, it's going to be absolutely mind-blowing for them, and it also will confirm the premise of the gospel and the scriptures and those things that are contained within, and will confirm 1,000% the divinely inspired nature. Not that, we didn't already believe, but for those that don't, they're not going to be able to get away from this, and they're not going to be able to just push it aside. It's that profound, and so I'm trying to get it out as soon as possible. All right, but anyways, the Apocalypse of Abraham, there's one portion. I'm going to skip over the first part of the text just to catch you up on it, and I'll post a link to it as well in the chat room. I'm going to be reading from my own copy of it. But for those that may be wanting to follow along or read it later for yourself, because it is not a very well known about text, this link will give you access, and it will also show you two different versions of the text side by side so that you can read for yourself. And it's interesting because it confirms the premise, in my opinion, of my fourth book, The Lucifer Father of Cain, and my efforts on that behalf, of which I have been highly ridiculed and received just an insurmountable amount of animosity and even straight up hatred for believing this way, which I know absolutely it's 100% scriptural. But that, for whatever reason, so many are unwilling to even look into it as possibility. But anyways, so the first portion of this text has to do with Abraham being witness to his father's worship of the various Sumerian idols made of gold or silver or brass or wood, and his unbelief that these particular idols are gods or that could in any way benefit him or help him in a time of crisis, and that they totally do not deserve any praise, worship, or even any kind of respect. And so for those that are unfamiliar with other texts which relate to Abraham's destruction of his father's idols, and how he had put an axe in the hand of the largest, and then told his father that the largest idol was mad at all the others and had destroyed them, and that his father then told him, well, that's impossible because they are, basically stone or wood or brass or gold or silver, and that they can't move. And then Abraham challenges him, if they can't move and that they can't even, kill each other, why would you give them any kind of praise or worship? And so Terah, his father, who's the high priest to Nimrod, he goes and basically tattletales on his own son, and Nimrod calls him Abraham before him. But anyways, that isn't in this particular account. Just the account of Abraham's relationship with his father and the reaction of his father when the idols are destroyed. And then the next portion, of which I'm going to be picking it up, is the Most High God sending one of his angels to Abraham and telling him to go to a high place, and a particular mountain, to perform ritual where he would be taught about the secrets of heaven and earth and the way things really are. And so we'll pick it up there. And the main reason I decided to share this is because, again, it is one of those texts that is a confirming witness to a large portion of my work, but will help you to understand the parable of the wheat and the tares of Matthew chapter 13 and what Christ talks about as the difference between the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent, and how that enmity began not with Genesis 6 and the Watcher incursion, their mating with the daughters of Cain, but with Genesis 3 and the beguilement of Eve and her impregnation with the firstborn hybrid son of the devil, Cain. All right, so we'll pick it up there and then I'll check. The chat room every once in a while for questions. All right. And just so you know, I believe it is chapter 13 that I'm going to be beginning. And I think I'm going to read the right side. Not that there's really much difference, but I'm choosing right because that is the side of the elect, whereas the left is the side of those who walk the broad path of destruction. And the right-hand side is those that walk the narrow way. So, just so you know. All right. And I did everything according to the command of the angel and gave the angels who had come to us the divided animals. But the angel Joel took the birds, and I waited until the evening sacrifice. And there flew an unclean bird down upon the carcass, and I drove it away, and the unclean bird spoke to me and said, Abraham, what are you doing upon these holy heights, where no man eats or drinks, nor is there upon them the food of man, but these heavenly beings consume everything with fire, and will burn you up? Forsake the man who is with you, and flee, for if you ascend into the heights, they will make an end of. And it came to pass, when I saw the bird speak, I said to the angel, What is this, my Lord? And he said, This is ungodliness. This is Azazel. And he said to it, Disgrace upon you, Azazel, for Abraham's lot is in heaven, but yours is upon the earth, because you have chosen and loved this for the dwelling place of your uncleanness. Therefore the eternal mighty Lord made you to be a dweller upon the earth, and through you every evil spirit of lies, and through you wrath and trials for the generations of ungodly men. For God, the eternal mighty one, has not permitted that the bodies of the righteous should be in your hand, in order that thereby the life of the righteous and the destruction of the unclean may be assured. Hear this, my friend, and be gone with shame from me, for it has not been given to you to play the tempter in regard to all the righteous. Depart from this man. You cannot lead him astray. He is an enemy to you and to those who follow you and love what you desire. For behold, the vesture which in heaven was formerly yours has been set aside for him, and the mortality which was his has been transferred to you. And the angel said to me, Know that from henceforth the Eternal One has chosen you. Be of good courage and use this authority so far as I bid you against him who slanders the truth. Should I not be able to put him to shame who has scattered over the earth the secrets of heaven and has rebelled against the Mighty One? Say to him, become the burning coal of the furnace of the earth. Go, Azazel, into the inaccessible parts of the earth, for your heritage is to be over those who are with you, the ones who brought forth with the stars and clouds, and with the men whose portion you are, even those who exist on account of your being. Now, isn't that interesting? Because we know that angels are created beings. They are not born into the world. And that the only way you can be responsible for bringing others into being is if you have children and are, procreating with humanity. And so, in my opinion, this particular portion is equated with the seduction, the beguilement of Eve. Justification shall be your enemy. Now depart from me by your perdition. And I uttered the words that the angel taught me, and then the angel said to me, answer him not, for God has given him power over those who answer him. And the angel spoke to me again, saying, however much he speak to you, answer him not, in order that he may not have free access to you, because the Eternal One has given him weight and will in this respect. And I did that which was commanded me by the angel, and no matter how much he spoke to me, I answered him nothing whatsoever. And it came to pass, when the sun went down, behold, there was the smoke as of a furnace, and the angels, who had the portions of the sacrifice, ascended from the top of the smoking furnace. And the angel took me with his right hand, and set me upon the right wing of the pigeon, and set himself on the left wing of the turtle dove, neither of which birds had been slaughtered. And he bore me to the borders of the flaming fire, and we ascended upon many winds to the heaven which were above the firmament. And I saw in the air, on the heights to which we ascended, a strong light impossible to describe, and within the light a fiercely burning fire, a people, many people, of male appearance, all constantly changing in aspect and form, running and being transformed, and worshiping and crying with a sound of words that I could not recognize. And I said to the angel, why have you now brought me up here? Because my eyes cannot now see distinctly, and I am growing weak, and my spirit is departing from me. And he said to me, remain close by me, and do not fear, for the one whom you cannot see is now coming towards us with a great voice of holiness, even the Eternal One who loves you. But you yourself cannot see him, but you must not allow your spirit to grow faint on account of the choir of those who cry out, for I am with you to strengthen you. Pretty soon we're going to get to the vision of what I wanted to really focus upon. And while he was thus speaking, fire came out about us, and there was a voice within the fire, like the sound of many waters, like the sound of the sea in violent motion. And I desired to fall down there and worship, and I saw that the angel who was with me bowed his head and worshiped. But the surface of the high place where I seemed to be standing changed its inclination, constantly rolling as the great waves on the surface of the sea. And the angel said, worship Abraham, and uttered the song which I shall now teach you. Utter it without ceasing, and that is without pause, in one continuous strain from beginning to end. And the song which he taught me to sing had words appropriate to that sphere in which we then stood, for each sphere in heaven has its own song of praise, and only those who dwell there know how to utter it. And those upon earth cannot know or utter it except they be taught by the messengers of heaven. And the words of that song were of this import and signification. Eternal, mighty, holy, El, God only supreme, you who are the self-originated, the beginningless, one, incorruptible, spotless, uncreated, immaculate, immortal, self-complete, self-illuminating, without father, without mother, unbegotten, exalted, fiery one, lover of men, benevolent one, bountiful one, jealous over me and very compassionate, Eli, my God, eternal Jehovah, Zeboath, which I guess that's like Sabaoth, S-A-B, very glorious El, Jael. You are the one whom my soul has loved, eternal protector, shining like fire, whose voice is like thunder, whose look is like lightning. You are the all-seeing one who receives the prayers of all such as honor you, and turn away the request of those who embarrass you with their provocations, who dissolve the confusion of the world which arise from the ungodly, and the righteous mixed up in the confusion of the corruptible age. And renewing the age of the righteous, shine, O Lord, shine as light, even as that light which you clothed yourself on the first day of creation. Shine as the light of the morning on your creatures, and let it be day upon earth. For in these heavenly dwelling places there is no need of any other light than the unspeakable splendor from the light of your countenance. O answer my prayer. O be well pleased with it, and accept my sacrifice, which you have prepared for me to offer. Accept me favorably, and show me, teach me all that you have promised. Okay, I'm checking to see how far the vision is. Okay, it's pretty close. So I'll just read this part. And then I'll check the chat room. And while I was still reciting the song, the mouth of the fire, which was on the surface, rose up on high, and I heard a voice like the roaring of the sea, nor did it cease on account of the rich abundance of the fire. And as the fire raised itself up, ascending into the heights, I saw under the fire a throne of fire, and round about it the watchfulness of many eyes, even the all-seeing ones reciting their song. And under the throne 4 fiery living ones, singing, and their appearance was one, and each one had 4 faces. And such was the appearance of their countenance, that each one had the face of a lion, a man, an ox, and an eagle. And because of their 4 heads upon their bodies, they had 16 faces, and each one had 3 pairs of wings, from their shoulders, from their sides, and from their loins. And with the wings from the shoulders they covered their faces. With the wings from their loins they covered their feet, while the 2 middle wings were spread out for flying straight forward. And it came to pass that when they had ended their singing, they looked at one another and threatened one another. And it came to pass that when the angel who was with me saw that they were threatening each other, he left me and went running to them, and turned the countenance of each one away from the countenance immediately facing him, in order that they might not look upon each other. And he began to teach them the song of peace, which has its origin in the Eternal One. And I stood alone and looked. I saw behind the living ones a chariot with fiery wheels, each wheel full of eyes round about. And over the wheels was the throne which I had seen, and which was covered with fire. And the fire encircled it round about, and lo, an indescribable fire contained a mighty, fiery host, and I heard its holy voice like the voice of a man. And a voice came to me out of the midst of the fire, saying, Abraham, Abraham. And I answered, saying, Here am I. And he said, Consider the expanse which are under the firmaments, on which you are now placed, and see how on no single expanse is there any other than the one whom you have sought. even the one who loves you. And while he was yet speaking, the expanse opened, and there below me were the heavens, and I saw upon the seventh firmament upon which I stood a fire widely extended in the light, which is the treasury of life, and the dew with which God awakens the dead, and the spirits of the departed righteous, and the spirits of those souls who have yet to be born, and judgment and righteousness, peace and blessing, and an innumerable company of angels, and the living ones, and the power of the invisible glory that sat above the living ones. And I looked downward from the mountain on which I stood to the sixth firmament, and there I saw a multitude of angels of pure spirit, without bodies, whose duty was to carry out the commands of the fiery angels, who were upon the seventh firmament, as I was standing suspended over them. And behold, upon this sixth firmament there were no other powers of any form, save only the angels of pure spirit. And he commanded that the sixth firmament should be removed from my sight, and I saw there on the fifth firmament the powers of the stars which carry out the commands laid upon them, and the elements of the earth. And the eternal mighty one said to me, Abraham, Abraham. And I said, Here am I. And he said to me, Consider from above the stars which are beneath you, and number them for me, and make known to me their number. And I said, How can I? For I am but a man of the dust of the earth. And he said to me, As the number of the stars and their power, so will I precede a nation and a people set apart from that of Azazel. And yet I include Azazel in my house. And I said, O Eternal Mighty One, let your servant speak before you, and let not your anger be kindled against your chosen one. Though before I came up hither, Azazel inveighed against me, how then, while he is not now before you, can you constitute yourself with him? And he said to me, Look now beneath your feet at the firmaments, and understand the creation represented and foreshadowed in this expanse, the creatures who exist upon it, and the ages prepared for it. And I saw beneath the surface of my feet, even beneath the sixth heaven, and what was therein, and then the earth and its fruits, and what moved upon it, and its animate beings, and the power of its men, and the ungodliness of some of its souls, and the righteous deeds of other souls. And I saw the lower regions, and the perdition therein, the abyss and its torments. And I saw the sea and its islands, its monsters and its fishes, and Leviathan and his dominion, his camping ground, and his caves, and the world which lay above him, his movement, and the destruction of the world on his account. And I saw there the streams and the rivers and the rising of their waters and their windings and their courses. And I saw there the Garden of Eden and its fruits, and source of the river that issued from it, the trees and their blossoms, and the ones who behaved righteously. And I saw therein their foods and their blessedness. And I saw there a great multitude, men and women and children, half of them on the right side of the vision, and half of them on the left side of the vision. Check the chat room real quick. All right, continuing. And I said, O Eternal Mighty One, what is this vision and picture of the creatures? And he said to me, This is my will for those who exist in the divine world council, for thus it seemed well-pleasing in my sight. And so afterwards I gave commandment to them through my word, And so it came to pass that whatever I had determined to be was already planned beforehand, and in this picture vision before you, and it has stood before me before it was created, as you have seen. And I said, O Lord, mighty and eternal, who are the people in this picture on this side and that? And he said to me, those who are on the left side are all those born before your day and afterwards, some destined for judgment and restoration, and others for vengeance and cutting off at the end of the age. But those on the right side of the picture, they are the people who have been set apart for me, and whom I have ordained to be born of your line, and called my people, even some of those who derive from Azazel. All right, so again, in my opinion, those that are, derived from Azazel, or those of the left side, include the lineage of Cain, the line of Cain, as well as the giants that were born from the fornication of the watchers with the daughters of humanity. But did you notice that it says that some of those, even those that are derived from Azazel or born of the tares, that particular lineage, they still are set apart. And so it does, even though your destiny, your fate, and your circumstance and situation as to whether you're born of either line, they do affect the conditions of your life and your situation and circumstance. They don't determine your eternal inheritance. That is us, and whether we accept Christ as Savior, Messiah, and whether we do the works where it says in Revelation, remember from whence thou art fallen, and do the first works, that regardless of which line we are born into, we do, and our allegiance, our alignment with one of two masters, either Satan or Christ, and the work that we do accordingly, that also is a huge factor in the determination of whether we are found worthy and counted with the elect. Okay. Now look again in the picture and see who it is who seduced Eve, and what is the fruit of the tree, and you will know what is to be, and how it shall be with your seed. Among the people at the end of the days of this age, in all that you cannot understand, I will make known to you, for you are well pleasing in my sight, and I will tell you of those things which are kept in my heart. And so, again, it's my opinion that what the Most High is elaborating on here is what occurred in the garden, and how it is that the eating of the fruit from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, that this is what caused Eve and Adam to lose their immortality, and being transformed into flesh, Eve was impregnated with Cain, the firstborn, the hybrid scion of the devil, and the progenitor, the forebearer of the tares, or the seed of the serpent. All right, continuing. And I looked into the picture, and my eyes ran to the side of the Garden of Eden, and I saw there a man of imposing height and mighty in stature, incomparable in aspect, and he was embracing a woman who likewise approximated to the aspect of his size and stature. And they were standing under a tree of the Garden of Eden. And the fruit of this tree was like a bunch of grapes of the vine. And standing behind the tree was one who had the aspect of a serpent, having hands and feet like those of a man, and wings on its shoulders, 6 pairs of wings, so that there were 6 wings on the right and 6 on the left. Is that not interesting as well? Because, so many people believe that the serpent in the garden, the Nakash, that it was simply a snake, and had no further aspect, even though it says that his limbs were shriveled up and he was made to go upon his belly. They still argue against the supernatural aspect of the Nakash as a winged serpent. And here in this particular passage, we have confirmation of the Shining One as being a winged enchanter, a feathered serpent. All right, continuing. So I'll read that portion again real quick. And standing behind the tree was one who had the aspect of a serpent, having hands and feet like those of a man, and wings on its shoulders, 6 pairs of wings, so that there were 6 wings on the right and 6 on the left. And as I continued looking, I saw the man and the woman eating the fruit from the tree. And I said, who are these who are embracing, and who is the one behind them? Who is behind the tree? And what is the fruit that they are eating? And he said, this is the counsel of the world. This one is Adam, and this one who is their desire upon the earth is Eve. But he who is between them represents ungodliness and their beginnings, on the way to perdition, even Azazel. And I said, O Eternal One, let's see. O Eternal Mighty One, why have you given to him the power to destroy the generations of men and their work upon the earth? And he said to me, those who will do evil over them, I gave him power, even to be beloved of them. And I answered and said, O Eternal Mighty One, wherefore is it your will that evil should be desired in the hearts of men, since you are indeed angered over that which you see? Is it your will, and you are angry with him who is doing what is unprofitable in your counsel? And he said to me, I am angered by mankind on your account, and on account of those who shall be of your family hereafter. As you can see in the picture, the burden of destiny is placed upon them, and I shall tell you what shall be, and how much shall be in the last days. Look now at everything in the picture. And I looked and saw what was before me. In creation, I saw Adam and Eve with him, And I saw the cunning adversary, and Cain, who acted lawlessly through the prompting of the adversary. And I saw the slaughtered Abel, and the destruction brought about and caused upon him through the lawless one. And I saw impurity in those who lust after it, and its pollution, and their jealousies, and the fire of their corruption in the lowest part of the earth. And I saw theft in those who hasten after it, and the arrangement of their retribution at the judgment of the great assize. And I saw their naked men with their foreheads against each other, and their disgrace, and the passions which they had for each other, and their retribution. And I saw desire, and in her hand the head of every kind of lawlessness, and her scorn, and contempt, and waste, a sign to perdition. And I saw there the likeness of the idol of jealousy, carved in woodwork, such as my father was wont to make, and its body was glittering bronze, which covered the wood. And before it I saw a man who was worshiping the idol, and in front of him there was an altar, and upon the altar a boy, slain in the presence of the idol. And I said to him, what is this idol, and this altar, and who is he who sacrificed, and what is this great building which I see? Beautiful in art and design, even with a beauty like that which lies beneath your throne. And he said, hear, Abraham, for that which you see is the temple, a copy of that which is in the heavens, glorious in its aspect and beauty, even as I shall give it to the sons of men, to ordain a priesthood for my glorious name, and in which the prayers of man shall be uttered, and sacrifices offered, as I ordained to your people, even those who shall arise out of your generation. But the idol which you saw is the image of jealousy set up by some of those who shall come forth from your own loins in latter days. And the man who sacrifices murder is he who pollutes my temples, and such are witnesses to the final judgment, and their lot has been set from the beginning of creation. And I said, O eternal mighty one, why have you established that it should be so, and then proclaimed the knowledge thereof? And he said to me, hear, Abraham, and understand what I say to you, and answer me. Why did your father Terah not listen to your voice, and why did he not cease from his idolatrous practices, together with his whole house? And I said, O Eternal One, it was entirely because he did not choose to listen to my voice, and likewise I did not choose to listen to his counsel. And he said to me, the will of your father is within him, and your own will is within you, and so also the counsel of my own will is within me, and is ready for the coming days, even before you have any knowledge of them, or can see with your eyes what is the future of them. Now look again into the picture and see how it will be with your seed. And I looked and saw, and behold, the picture swayed, and from it emerged on the left side an ungodly people. And they pillaged those who were on the right side, men, women, and children. And some they murdered, and others they kept as slaves. And I saw them run towards them through 4 entrances, and they burned the temple with fire, and the holy things that were therein were all plundered. And I said, O Eternal One, behold, the people who shall spring from me, and whom you have accepted, are plundered by these ungodly men, and some are killed, whilst others they hold captives as slaves. And the temple they have burned with fire, and the beautiful things therein they have robbed and destroyed. If this is to be, why have ye so torn my heart? And he said to me, what you have seen shall happen on account of your seed, even those who anger me by reason of the idol statue which you saw, and on account of the human sacrifice in the picture, through their evil zeal and schemes in the temple. And as you saw it, so shall it be. So, just a comment here. It must have been that we are being given insight into some of the things that occurred in the temple, in the Holy of Holies, and not just, other pagan altar sites, because we know those kind of things absolutely happened there. But it must have been that the Pharisees or some other sect, having corrupted and desecrated the holy temple by doing such practice, that is why the Most High brought down not only Israel as nation, but the temple as a holy place, and that the fire and the destruction of it would serve as purification for its for the abomination that had taken place within it, is my opinion. Even though we don't know for a certain. But I would think that that is why the Most High is sharing with us and giving us a glimpse into the workings and the hidden occult practices that were taking place and being performed by the Pharisees and the Sadducees and those that had come to inherit the authority as rabbis, the synagogues and the temple authorities. And this also, goes back to the seed of Cain, because I don't know if you remember the story or not, but when Joshua was sent into Canaan and was told to slaughter every man, woman, and child in order to spare no one so that they could leaven the people, Israel, and the Hebrews, they were tricked. There was a group of people, I forget what they had called themselves, but they were Canaanites. They were of the seed of Cain, and they masqueraded. They acted like they were from a very far off place, and they asked Joshua to spare them, and they promised to be servants unto the people Israel, to the Hebrew Israelites. And Joshua did so, and not only that, but he made all the princes of Israel, all of the people, to promised to do the same. And after taking vow, they discovered that they had been deceived, and that because of such vow, they were unable to slaughter them outright and allowed them to be servants, to continue serving as servants to the Hebrews. And they were sent as servants to the Levitical priesthood, and they were taught the rites of worship within the temple and the various synagogues or places of worship, which at that time there was only the temple, and it was a tent before they actually built the house of God. That Solomon built the house of God. But and so this depiction of the priests, the rabbis, as being the seed of Cain, that it goes back to that portion and that story and that circumstance. And that's how it is that they were able to assume the tasks and also the practices within the Holy of Holies and the temple services. But this was how they overtook and basically instilled themselves into becoming the Pharisees and the Sadducees and the Levitical priesthood. They assumed such role. All right, going back to the story. And he said to me, what you have seen shall happen on account of your seed. Even those who anger me by reason of the idol statue which you saw, and on account of the human sacrifices in the picture, through their evil zeal and schemes in the temple. And as you saw it, so shall it be. And I said, O eternal mighty one, may these works of evil wrought in ungodliness now pass by, and rather show me those who fulfilled the commandments, and even the works of righteousness. For of a truth you can do this. And he said to me, the days of the righteous are seen in type by the lives of those righteous rulers who shall arise, and whom I have created to rule at the times appointed. But know this, that out of them shall arise others who care only for their own interests, even of the type that I have already shown you. And I answered and I said, O mighty one, hallowed be your power. Be favorable to my petition, and show me, because for this reason you have brought me up here, whether what I saw shall happen to them for a long time. And he showed me a multitude of his people, and said to me, on their account, through 4 entrances, as you saw, I shall be provoked by them, and in these shall my retribution for their deeds be accomplished. But in the 4th descent of 100 years, even 1 hour of the age, the same is 100 years, there shall be misfortune among the nations, but also for 1 hour there shall be mercy and honor among those nations. And I said, O Eternal One, how long are the hours of the age? And he said, 12 hours have I ordained for this present age of ungodliness to rule among the nations, and within your seed, and until the end of the times. It shall be even as you saw. And now reckon and understand and look again into the picture. And I looked and I saw a man going out from the left side of the nations. And there went out men and women and children from the side of nations, many hosts, and worshipped him. And while I still looked, there came many from the right side. And some of these insulted him, and some of them even struck him. But others, however, worshipped him. And as I watched, I saw Azazel approach him, and he kissed him on the face and then stood behind him. And I saw, O Eternal One. And I said, O Eternal One, who is the man insulted and beaten, who is worshipped by the nations and kissed by Azazel? And he answered and he said, Hear Abraham, the man you saw insulted and beaten and yet worshipped by many. He is the relief granted by the nations to the people who proceed from you in the last days, in the 12th hour of the age of ungodliness. All right, so this is interesting to me, because when I first read this account, I had automatically, as you did, assumed that this was Christ Jesus, Yeshua, Savior Messiah, being sent to, basically to turn everything upside down and to bring a return to holiness to the world, and also as the way and the truth and the light, to show by example how we are to have a return to our first estate. But what makes me wonder about this passage, and if it is so, is the description of this being the 12th hour of the age of ungodliness. And because it said that, that 100 years is an hour, and if this is the final hour and the final age and the final generation, and Yeshua had walked 2,000 years before, how could this person or this individual that is being described here, how can we equate him as being our Lord, our Savior, our King? And so keep that in mind as I read the rest of this passage, because we know that Christ is not coming again in the flesh. That when he comes the next time, all the world will see that as lightning thunders and flashes from east to west, from the ends of the earth, from one side to the other, so shall he be seen. Which this is another, that passage, and because previously I thought, well, how is that possible if the side of the earth that is not facing him, they're in night, how would they be able to see him? And so it didn't make sense to me until I began to study again as premise the flat earth as possibility and the circle of the earth as described in Isaiah chapter 40, which another interesting, since I'm mentioning this, that particular passage, is that Isaiah in chapter 22 uses a reference to a ball. And it's the only place in the scriptures where you can find such accounting being used. And that he didn't choose the same word for ball when he described the earth, the circle of the earth, 12 or 18 chapters later. Instead, he used a word which meant circle, as in a circle like the foundation of a tent. So anyways, so it made sense to me that, yeah, if we're living on a flat earth plane and, you know, everybody could see Christ coming in the heavens from one side of the earth to the other, then that absolutely made more sense to me than if we were living on a spherical earth or a globe. All right, so let's get back into this portion of the text. He is the relief granted by the nations to the people who proceed from you in the last days, in the 12th hour of the age of ungodliness. But in the 12th hour of my final age will I set up this man from your generation, whom you saw issue from among my people, and all who follow will become like this man, and such as are called by me will join the others, even those who will to change within themselves. And here's my other thought on this particular passage. Is this, because for those of you that have read Skyfall, you know that I talk about in that text that the two witnesses of Revelation 11 are Enoch and Elijah. And I use various, like 4 different accounts from various different texts which speak about the return of Elijah and Enoch as the two witnesses. And so is this text talking about the same thing? Or is the reference of this righteous being or relief, is this individual Enoch or Elijah? And if so, why not mention the other? Why would it not say I would establish 2 men as relief? So I'm still in a bit of a conundrum as to these particular scriptures and what they mean for us as the final generation. All right, so let's continue so we can make it through the entirety of this text. All right. And then it's saying that this man is from your generation, speaking to Abraham. And so, what does that mean? Was it somebody that was alive during the time of Abraham, and that much like the return of Elijah in the text as the John the Baptist, is this a similar kind of accounting? I'm not positive. Not Elijah, but what was it? When they mention in the New Testament that one of the Old Testament prophets would come before John the Baptist. I can't remember right now anyways, but I mentioned that in my book, Skyfall. All right. I will set up this man from your generation whom you saw issue from among my people, and all who follow will become like this man. And such as are called by me will join the others, even those who will to change within themselves. And as for those who emerge from the left side of the picture, the meaning is this: there shall be many from the nations who shall set their hopes upon him. Now, but as for those whom you saw from your seed on the right of the picture who insulted him, so maybe this is Antichrist? Let's continue. We'll see how it plays out. For those whom you saw from your seat on the right side of the picture, who insulted him and struck him, many shall be offended in him, but some shall worship him. And he shall test those of your seed who have worshipped him in the 12th hour at the end. It would make sense that this would be Antichrist, with a view to shortening the age of ungodliness. Before the age of the righteous begins to grow, my judgment shall come upon the lawless peoples, through the people of your seed who have been separated unto me. And in those days I will bring upon all creatures of the earth 10 plagues. Now this is interesting to me because you know how in the Matthew chapter 24, Luke 21, and Mark chapter 13, which are about the signs at the end of the age, the apostles asked Christ, what will be the signs of your return? And he says in various accounts that there will be wars and rumors of wars, earthquakes in diverse places, be weary that you be not deceived, all those kind of things, which basically is the same chapter, just, 3 different witnesses. But anyways, in those passages, he talks about how, as in the days of Noah, so shall it be in the days of the second coming of the Son of Man. And how what had played out during the time of Noah, and which was reason that the flood was brought upon the earth, the miscegenation, the angels fornicating, the return of the giants, all those things, that those kind of things would be done again, and that what had once been shall be again, and that what was in the past shall be repeated. And that, there's that saying that history repeats itself, that is the plagues that are coming upon the earth, the wrath of God being poured out on those not written into the book of life. Will it be similar to the 10 plagues that were brought upon Egypt, and which led to the freedom of the Hebrew Israelites from the bondage of that pagan nation? Just wondering. Could possibly be. And so it would not only be as in the days of Noah, but perhaps as in the days of Moses. And in those days I will bring upon all creatures of the earth 10 plagues through misfortune and disease and the sighing of their grief. And this shall be brought upon the generations of men on account of the provocation and the corruption of mankind, whereby they provoke me. And then shall righteous men of your seed survive in the number which is kept secret by me, and will hasten the coming of the glory of my name to that place prepared beforehand for them, which you saw devastated in the picture. and they shall live and be established by sacrifices of righteousness in the age of the righteous, and they shall rejoice in me continually and receive those who return to me in repentance. For great shall be the inner torment of those who have despitefully used them in this world, as they observe the honor placed upon my own in the day of glory. See, Abraham, what you have seen, and hear what you have heard, and take knowledge of all that you have come to know. Go to your heritage, and behold, I am with you unto the age. But while he was still speaking to me, I found myself once again upon the earth, and I said, O Eternal One, I am no longer in the glory which is on high, and there is one matter which my soul longed to know and understand, which has not been revealed to me. And he said to me, what your heart desired I will tell you, because you have sought to see the 10 plagues which I have prepared for the godless nations, and which have been predetermined at the passing over of the 12th hour of the age of the earth. Hear, therefore, what I divulge, and so shall it come to pass. Here's the listing of the 10 plagues. The first is the distressing pain of sickness. The second, conflagration of many cities. The third, the destruction and pestilence of animals. The fourth, hunger of the whole world and its people. The fifth, by destruction among its rulers, by earthquake and the sword. And sixth, the multiplication of hail and snow. The seventh, wild beasts will be their grave. The eighth, hunger and pestilence will alternate with destruction. The ninth, punishment by the sword and flight in distress. The 10th, thunder and voices and destructive earthquakes. And then I will sound the trumpet out of the air, which, in my opinion, the sounding of the trumpet that is being referenced here is the trumpet that is sounded on the last day, the last trump, and that this is when the righteous shall be taken up into the air to meet our King. And so, for those that, believe in a pre-trib rapture and that we will escape all those things that were just referenced above the 10 plagues, I absolutely pray that it is so, and that that such a rapture exists. But it's my opinion that according to this and many other texts, that the last trumpet, the last day, and that then the wrath of God is poured out on those not written into the book of life, but that there is much suffering even prior. But as I said, I pray for the best, and I also pray that none of us ever have to go through anything that is being referenced here in any kind of degree. All right, continuing. And then I will sound the trumpet out of the air, and I will send my elect one, having in him all my power in one measure. And he shall summon my despised people from all nations, and I will send fire upon those who have insulted them, and who have ruled over them in this age. And I will give those who have covered me with mockery to the scorn of the coming age, and I have prepared them to be food for the fires of Hades, and perpetual flight through the air in the underworld. For they shall see the righteousness of the Creator, and those whom he now honors, and they shall be ashamed. For I had hoped that they would come to me in repentance rather than loving strange gods, but they forsook the mighty Lord and went the way that they willed to go. We're almost done. Hear therefore, Abraham, and see, for behold, in the 7th generation from you shall they leave the land of their slavery, after they have been ill-treated, as it were, for an hour of the age of ungodliness. And the nation whom they shall serve, I will judge. All right. I want to go back just a little bit and read the other side of it, because the left side of the text seems to have a little more elaboration, a little more detail. And so I want to go back just to the 10 plagues as described by that side, and the sound of the trumpet, and since we have a little time anyways. And he said to me, I will explain to you the things you desired in your heart, for you have sought to know the 10 plagues which I prepared against the heathen, and I prepared them beforehand in the passing of the 12 hours on earth. Hear what I tell you, it will be thus. The first, sorrow from much need. The second, fiery conflagrations for the cities. The third, destruction by pestilence among the cattle. The fourth, famine of the world of their generation. The fifth, among the rulers, destruction by earthquake and the sword. The sixth, increase of hail and snow. The seventh, wild beasts will be their grave. The eighth, pestilence and hunger will change their destruction. The ninth, execution by the sword and flight in distress. The 10th, thunder voices and destroying earthquakes. And then I will sound the trumpet out of the air, and I will send my chosen one, having in him one measure of all my power, and he will summon my people, humiliated by the heathen, and I will burn with fire those who mock them and ruled over them in this age, and I will deliver those who have covered me with mockery over to the scorn of the coming age, because I have prepared them to be food for the fire of Hades, and to be ceaseless soaring in the air of the underworld regions of the uttermost depths, to be the contents of a wormy belly, for the makers will see in them justice, the makers who have chosen my desire and manifestly kept my commandments. And they will rejoice with merrymaking over the downfall of the men who remained and who followed after the idols and after their murders. For they shall putrefy in the belly of the crafty worm, Azazel, and be burned by the fire of Azazel's tongue. For I waited so they might come to me, and they did not deign to. And they glorified an alien god, and they joined one to whom they had not been allotted, and they abandoned the Lord who gave them strength. Last portion. Therefore hear, Abraham, and see, behold, your seventh generation shall go with you, and they will go into an alien land, and they will enslave them and oppress them as for 1 hour of the impious age. But of the nation whom they shall serve, I am the judge. And the Lord said this too. Have ye heard, Abraham, what I told you, what your tribe will encounter in the last days? Abraham, having heard, accepted the words of God in his heart. All right, we're going to finish there. I'm thinking, I know I still have to do a show on Melchizedek, so maybe I'll get some of that material together and do that possibly next week. But if not, I was thinking of maybe going back into the second portion of the writings of Abraham, since I just covered this aspect, because that is a very interesting text anyways. And who knows, if you have anything that you would like me to cover or want me to make, to put some focus upon, just send me an email at zengarcia.com and I will do so. I'll see if I can put together something and make it available to all of you. I appreciate those of you that have joined me for live discussion, that have made it to the chat room. I thank those of you for doing so, and know that I appreciate all of you. Let me see. There's some discussion. I'll see if I can read this. Sea Tiger is saying there is no rapture. I'm not saying rapture per se, but what it talks about in the Bible as our joining the Most High God. Not a pre-trib or something of that nature. We are not getting a free ticket out of here, says Sea Tiger, and I absolutely agree. He says it is the wicked who are removed. Maybe so. But I think that the wrath of God is poured out on the wicked, and so why would they be removed for that wrath to be brought upon them? Okay, anyways, we have arrived to the very end of the show. Again, I appreciate all of you, and I thank you for taking the time to join us. I hope that this text helped you to understand, since it's been a long time that I covered anything as far as the enmity between the seed of the woman and the seed of the serpent, and the connections to Matthew chapter 13 and the parable of the wheat and the tares, and how the enemy had snuck into the garden and was responsible for sowing the tares, and how Matthew chapter 13 also says that the tares are the children of the wicked one, and that the wicked one is the devil. God bless all. Good night. I pray for all of your discernment and coming to truth. And don't believe anything that anybody says, especially the scientists. Doubt everything and confirm through your own efforts. Be a confirming witness to truth, no matter the weird and strange nature that it sometimes comes packaged in. And I pray for you and your family, your children, all of us, that we be kept under the protection and glory of the Most High God. Be blessed all. Good night.